Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode of Let's Talk Comics. I'm your host, Jim Viscardi. This is the official Image Comics podcast, and this episode is another episode in our San Diego Comic-Con Revisited series as we bring you some of the audio from the granddaddy convention of them all, San Diego Comic-Con 2026. Today's panel brings you some heavy hitters. We've got Geoff Johns, Jason Fabok, Chris Condon, Wes Craig, and Tyler Kirkham to talk about a bunch of the books that they've got coming up, but also the title of the panel was Storytelling Genre and What It Actually Takes to Create a Comic Book That People Remember. Geoff and Jason brought a ton of new details for things happening in the world of Ghost Machine, like GEIGER 25 and Radioactive Revolution, which is their Ghost Machine's first big crossover. We get some first details from Brad Meltzer's First Ghosts, updates from ROOK Exodus, including a new kind of series of one-shots, ROOK Wardens, which are going to be a lot of fun. And then Chris Condon takes us through kind of what the next arc, the new arc of That Texas Blood is going to be. What him and Jacob Phillips are doing there is a lot of fun, and to return to Ambrose County in the way that they're doing is definitely one you're going to want to listen into. Then we get to talk about some of the long-term plan for Kaya, which is legitimately one of the best ongoing fantasy stories that you can pick up in comic form right now. It is perfect for any age. It's not to say it like it's in a quote all ages book, but it's just a wonderful fantasy story that Wes writes and draws. You should absolutely check it out. He gives us a bunch of really cool insights and updates for stuff coming up there. And then Tyler Kirkham gives us insight into Final Boss and what it took to take Final Boss, which is inspired by a bunch of those side scrolling beat 'em up games, and turn it into one of those side scrolling beat 'em up games. And then obviously some other stuff coming up within the story as well. But yeah, like I said, like as the conversation goes on, it really keeps coming back to one really important question that gets asked, and it's why are these creators telling the stories that they are telling? And it leads to a really cool discussion about putting character first and giving emotional moments enough room to breathe, things like how to make sure, when to give story moments more or less pages. A lot of craft talk here, a lot of really cool philosophy and insight into some of your favorite books. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's talk comics.
Morning, everyone. Made it to, what is it, day 3? Who's been here all 3 days? God bless you. And to be here at 10 o'clock in the morning, you are the real heroes of the show. Thank you for being here. I'm Jim Viscardi, host of the Let's Talk Comics podcast. There's a bunch of other stuff for Image Comics, but you don't care about me. You care about the people here on the panel. I'm going to introduce them real quick, and then we're going to get into some fun today, all right? First up, Mr. Geoff Johns. Let's give it up for Geoff Johns. Yeah! Jason Fabok. I had Dennis Camp on. He's not here today, but we've got Chris Condon. Mr. Wes Craig. And last but not least, Mr. Tyler Kirkham. All right. Guys, here's what we're going to do today. We're going to go through, these guys have a bunch of really, really cool stuff coming up. We're going to go through that. I want to give them time to talk about it, get you excited for their books, and then we're going to open it up to a bunch of questions and things like that. We'll throw them out to the audience and things like that, but I've got a bunch of other questions and stuff for them. So, Geoff, we're going to start with you. GEIGER 25. That's for, you've done a number of books that have made it to 25, but this is your book.
Couple.
This is your book getting it to 25. 25 for create your own book is a milestone. What's that like for you to get to this point for this?
I mean, it's only to me it's only a little ways through. I'm used to writing like 100-issue runs, so
right.
It's exciting though because of the story where Gary and I are telling. Gary Frank and I have never done a run this long. Like he's never done a run this long. Mm-hmm. And we love the character. We love working with Tariq. We love the story. We love what he's all about. And issue 25, there's going to be, for us, celebration of the character, big changes in the story, and I don't want to spoil it too much.
Well, okay. Well, and so we don't have to spoil it too much. We do need to show off a bunch of these really cool covers you've got for issue 25, including the GEIGER figure.
Yeah, so we just announced with Todd McFarlane, the GEIGER action figure comes out in August. I think next month it's pre-ordered. It's down at his booth. You can check it out. It's really cool. Glows in the dark like it should.
And then you guys actually have got something coming up that you've been cooking for a little bit, and that is Radioactive Revolution. Tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah, so the World of the Unnamed we established with GEIGER and Redcoat and the Northerner and Junkyard Joe. We've always talked about putting it together and having the characters meet, and to have GEIGER and Redcoat finally be established enough to meet. You're going to meet Redcoat in GEIGER's time and see what he's gone through. And clearly they don't like each other. But GEIGER kills him a lot and he comes back a lot. It'll be a lot of fun.
We've got the one of the other covers here. It's coming.
I mean, one of the things about Ghost Machine too is we really do, like Jason included, we have the best artists, I think, in the business, like with Ivan and Brian and Gary and Francis Manipul and everyone. And everyone does covers for each other's books. And that's part of the fun of Ghost Machine, I think, is seeing all of us work together in collaboration because we all own the company together.
What's it like to get to a point where you get to do kind of like a mini event with your books? Your books have been running mostly on, their own tracks, but to bring them together.
I think the most fun it's been is to have, like, Gary, Brian, and I talk about what will Simon and Tariq, how will they interact?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how will they get along or not get along? What do they have in common? What don't they have in common? And that's the most fun, is to building an event around characters that we love. We love GEIGER, we love Redcoat. So seeing them together and seeing what sparks fly is what's fun for us.
That's awesome. Let's see. We've got a few more of the covers for GEIGER and Redcoat. Obviously, Brian and Gary have drawn, each other's characters, for covers and things like that. But like when you're all kind of working together on something like this, are there especially when there's a bit more maybe acting in the moments, does like Gary give notes on how how Tariq would act, and Brian give notes on how?
I mean, we
Simon.
We Zoom, and because Gary's in Italy, Brian's in England, so we Zoom and we talk about the story. Like, we're introducing a new villain called the Organ Grinder. Organ Grinder wants Tariq for a very specific reason, and he's hired Redcoat to go get him. And so we talk about the story together, just like Jay and I talk about Rook constantly. But it's a huge collaboration. So we do give each other, I don't know if notes is the right word. That feels like an editorial thing.
Sure.
Ideas, brainstorming. Right. We know what the heart of the characters are, what Simon's all about, what Redcoat's all about. Redcoat's all about how long does it take to become a better person. And Redcoat now has had 200 years. Is he a better person? The answer is no. But you'll see why. And he struggles with that, how to evolve as a human being. I think it's hard for everybody. And that's what Redcoat's about. As much as he tries, and GEIGER's all about the grief that somebody can carry and it can destroy them. So they both do share that in common, but we talk a lot about that. That's what we talk about, is we talk about why are we telling the story? We talk about what we're trying to say about just being alive. And then we put it through a radioactive man and a immortal mercenary.
Love it. One of the other things, we talked a little bit about the figure coming out through McFarlane Toys, but another thing that is here at the show is a GEIGER pop. What's it like to see GEIGER with a giant bobblehead?
As long as he's glowing, I'm happy. So, and they're always like, we should make him glow. I'm like, that's a great idea. The funny thing about the Funko is that they have 1,000 of them. It's limited edition. We got a few for the company. We actually sent one of our team members, Rebecca, over there to get it. And they're like, you need a wristband. And she's like, we're with Ghost Machine. He's like, you need a wristband.
All right. Next up, we've got something that I know you've been working on with Brad Meltzer, First Ghost. I think it's the first time we're seeing the covers for this one. I know this is one you've been wanting to talk about for a while. So let's...
Yeah, Brad and I have been wanting to do a book for a long time together, and we had this idea for First Ghost, which is essentially the new president gets sworn in and strange things happen at the White House, and they're sat down and the security says, usually sometimes it skips an administration. We were hoping it'd skip yours, but the White House is haunted. And then they have to deal with what that means. Brad is known for his novels that go back in American history and politics and everything. So he brought all that, and then, it's tied into the unnamed universe. So it's the first book that's present day in the unnamed universe. There is you'll see some crossover, but it's its own story, but you will see some crossover. Like REDCOAT's portrait, which we introduced in REDCOAT, it's still hanging in the White House, and this kid is like, who is that? But it's a really cool story. I love that cover Jay did. Jason did that cover with the American flag and the ghost. But it's a beautiful family story at its heart. And about why is the White House haunted? What's haunting it? And how do they get rid of it? Or should they get rid of it?
I know you guys do a lot of research and stuff for your books, especially when it ties into something that's a bit more kind of happening in real life, whatever. What kind of research goes into making the White House haunted?
Well, Brad has been I've been in the White House once. Brad has been in the White House 1,000 times.
He knows where the bodies are buried.
He does. He knows what ghosts should be haunting it. So Brad brings all that information, all that kind of research, because he's done so much with American politics and the White House and everything and history.
Right. Cool. And then we've got issue 2 covers to show as well.
Yeah, those are beautiful covers.
These are great.
Ivan Reese. But yeah, Gene Ha's done amazing work. You guys know Gene Ha's work from Top 10. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. It's going to be a beautiful series. He's into issue 3 right now. Issue 1's 40 pages. We try and do exercise first issues all the time. Like Jay did, Rook number 1 was 48 pages or something. It was huge for $3.
Cool. All right, we'll move on to some Rook Exodus stuff. We got issue 11 coming out in September. You guys have been doing so much with the creepy spiders. Tell us a little bit more about this issue and what fans can expect as we kind of
First, I'll say Jay's always complaining about how many spiders he has to draw, and I keep reminding him, you're the one that want to do the Warden of Spiders. So
yeah, I curse myself every day. And Rook, this whole arc that we're doing is really kind of like a horror-based arc. I think we talked about Aliens, like the original Aliens movies, and kind of the vibe of that. And the Spider Warden was just this idea I had of this guy in this giant mech suit, and that looks like a spider, and he's got machine guns on his back. And issue 11 is a big throwdown. Like this one took me a long time to draw, but it's got just some pretty crazy splash pages and action and fighting and tons of spiders everywhere and bullets flying and a great last page. That's like, if you're a Stag fan, get ready.
Don't spoil it.
I love these Warden helmet covers that you do, Jay. And so it feels like you try to outdo yourself every time there's a new mask, but what goes into a good Warden mask, and what about this one in particular is...
Well, I think with all the masks, Rook was the first one that I did, and my brother actually helped me design it. He's a 3D he works for Activision, does Call of Duty games, and so we built the helmet. As I was drawing it, we were building it in 3D. He was modeling it so I could see it from every angle. And then we started to kind of, from there, evolve it. So Direwolf was second. And I had a much more jaggedy kind of look. And he actually went through and feminized it more. And it looks really great. And then I think for a lot of the helmets, I'm looking at both how the animal silhouette looks, but also to give it a little bit of edge, I look at their skull and what the skulls look like. Like Stag is like a deer's skull, and same with Matterhorn and whatnot. So some of the characters I kind of lean into that just to give that little bit of rock and roll edge to it. And then the bug ones they're already creepy looking anyway, so you don't really have to do much. Just make it look cool and metallic and shiny, and then Brad comes in with all the colors and just does such a great job bringing it to life.
Yeah, and then also for the month of September, we previewed it earlier with the GEIGER one, but there's also these guys are doing these frame variants with all the characters in the Ghost Machine thing. Like those are fun. I love those. Let's see. We got the cover to issue 12, which is the this is really the big end of that, kind of this arc. You teased a little bit, but I guess like for you guys getting to this point, getting to Rook, seeing the fans, react to it. Like, do you? And I know it's not in the nature in when you're doing ongoing books, but like when you get to the end of a big arc, do you get the opportunity to be like, oh, cool, did it? But also
right back into the next one. Let's go. We already have the story figured out. We're going to tease it a little bit, and we just want to keep moving the story forward. We have a huge, epic story to tell. Mm-hmm. And I hope it's something I can literally do for the next 20 years and just build out volume after volume after volume. And they're going to get crazier and bigger. But also there's that emotional core and that heart to it that Geoff puts. I just want Rambo all the time. And Jeff's always like, we also need heart in here, So we balance each other out very well. And then I'm always like, more fights, and then I curse myself for I have to do this crazy fight now. But it works out well.
He does. He's like, this issue's taking me so long to draw because it's all fighting. I'm like, but
that's what I wanted to do, but it looks great in you. So,
but it is like Jay and I have plotted Rook out because it's for those who don't know, it's a terraformed world in the future where there's people have moved there and it's kind of collapsed. Society's collapsed, and there's these people called wardens that wear these masks that control animals, and they each do a different species. And so there's endless animals to do, endless. And Jay and I always have been very slowly like introducing other types of animals. We really stayed kind of in North America now, but we have so many ideas for all these other characters, and it's hard to like not just want to introduce all of them at once, but we are very meticulous about why we're doing the stories, what it means. Everyone has a favorite animal. People ask me, is there a warden of giraffes? I'm like, there is. Like, will you see it soon? I don't know, maybe. Well, there's a warden of every kind of animal, there's crazy wardens, like the warden of chickens is like one of our favorite characters. He's like this nutty Viking with like a rooster helmet on, and he loves his chickens. But like there's humor in it, there's, heart in it, there's it gets serious, it gets funny. It's a really fun book to work on, because when you say, well, what would it be like if a human being's brain was connected to a bunch of birds? What would that do? And that's Rook. Like, what would that experience? How would it change you? Because they were arrogant enough to think the helmets would just open their minds to the birds and control the birds. But the truth is the helmets open the minds for both ways. So you're influenced by your animals too, that and in a good way and a bad way, but influenced by those animals. And when you think about that and think about the instincts of animals and why as human beings we've lost our instincts, a lot of our instincts are kind of gone. You drop us in the middle of the forest. I mean, have you guys watched that like Survivor show, whatever it is? Like, there's one where they drop them in like Canada somewhere and with nothing. It's like they're naked, I think, even. But
I'll tell Alone, I think.
Oh yeah, Alone. Yeah, Alone. It's a good show actually. But it is like, that's what we want to explore, is what is our connection to nature and animals, and how would that affect us, how we've lost our connection to nature. And the story of Rook is really reclaiming, or nature kind of reclaiming us as part of it, and us accepting that and bringing it back in. Like I talked to Jay when we were first talking about the story. It's like, look around you and you could do it in this room. What else is alive besides people? And there's not even a tree. There's not a plant in here. And that's unless someone's carrying one in their pocket. There's nothing in here except people. And we've kind of segregated ourselves from nature as if we're better than, and we're a part of.
No, I love that. Well, and you guys are also, just in talking about, making sure that you're being intentional about who and what you do, but you guys are expanding the world of Rook a little bit with a new series coming out called Rook Wardens. I don't know why it didn't move. Well, that was super anticlimactic. Here we go. There it is.
Yeah, we're doing
Rook Wardens.
We're doing a series of, because there's so many characters that we want to explore, and we don't have room for all of it in our main book. So we're doing these one shots that will spotlight wardens that we both know, like Direwolf, who faces Ka, who's the warden of pythons that she trained that turn against her, and we have other ones coming up, that we've got. We're introducing like the warden of raccoons, who's a really fun bandit. The warden of whales, Ahab, like really interesting stories. Some of them they all tie back into the main book, but those will be periodically coming out too.
Cool, love that. All right, Chris, let's get to you for a little bit. Of the Earth, you getting to work with modern master Charlie Adlard is doing one of the creepiest books I've read in a while. How has that been for you?
I mean, it's I'm so fortunate to get to work with Charlie Adlard on a book. I mean, it's how it happened too is just I mean, he wanted to work with me.
That's great.
And that was like, I was a huge fan of his from when he was doing The Walking Dead and just, I mean, the X-Files books he did, back in the 90s. I mean, I'm such a big fan of his. So to be now collaborating with him is just amazing. And yeah, so I had this idea, when the pandemic started, kind of came up with the concept of the book Of the Earth, sort of based around this scene on a desolate road where this character is encounters an animal on that road, and I kind of just wanted to explore who this character was, and from there kind of built out this story. And like most of my stories, I mean, it's a slow burn. We take our time with it. We let things really kind of gestate, and through that, I think that builds up the suspense, and it's and builds up the thrills and the horror of it. And I think in issue 3 we introduce our monster. So it is a monster book, which is great fun to bat that around with Charlie and talk about what that design could be. And it's I sort of describe the series like a roller coaster ride, where it's the ride up to the top of the first big hill on the roller coaster is just as terrifying as the drop. But we're coming up to the drop, and it's going to just be thrills all the way through after that.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about just what collaborating with Charlie is like, just given that, like, for a lot of the books that you've done, you do a phenomenal job in, like, building suspense and really kind of building like really cool tense moments. I think that's something that, like, Charlie also like does really, really well. And so, like, when you guys are working on some of these moments that at times can be a bit unsettling, is there ever a point where either of you were like, oh, that's going to be good?
Yeah, I mean, there's just there's so many more. I mean, in issue 3, the reveal of the monster was one of those moments, and there's there's moments in issues 4, 5, and 6 that are just, as Andrew and I were writing the book, because I collaborated with a good friend of mine, Andrew Eric, on the script. There were certain things that I don't want to ruin anything for you. There were certain things that we were just, I just knew we were in for a treat when he was going to send the pages in. But Charlie and I mean, we like the same things. I mean, we both like that. We gravitate towards the cinema of the 70s. We have talked about Jaws a lot. Alien. Those sorts of films that kind of put you in an environment and allowed you to spend time with those characters and grow a relationship with those characters. And the horror kind of comes out of what what those characters experience. And so it's as much about the environment as it is about the characters. And
nice. We've got to talk about that Texas Blood. You're heading back with Jacob Phillips.
That's right.
What?
Back to Texas.
What? I know you've said before that, like, this is a story that you guys have been wanting to get to and do. So then what? A lot of fans are excited and anticipating this. What excites you about this next run in Ambrose?
Well, getting to work with Jake again. It's always a great thing. So from the start, we've bounced around in time. The first volume is set modern day. The second volume is set in 1981. The third volume is set in 1993. So we've always bounced around in time and get to see these characters that we love, like Joe Bob and Lou, and Wilson, and get to spend time with them at various points in their lives and kind of see why they get to the point that they did in the first volume. And in this volume, it is set in 2003. In fact, it's set on the night of the Iraq War invasion, which has some timely parallels right now with things going on in the Middle East right now, which was not intentional on my part. This was a story that we wanted to tell for a while. It just sort of caught up with us, I guess. But what was thrilling about it for us was we get to see, getting back to that first volume. We met Joe Bob when he was 70 years old. He's tired. And we, through the second volume, get to see him when he's a deputy. The third volume, when he's just become sheriff and didn't really want to become sheriff, sort of by happenstance, he became the sheriff. And at this point, we get to see him and his pal Wilson at really a crossroads in their lives, where they're going through something. I mean, they're getting older and they're looking at their jobs and their lives and they're going to, how long do we have to keep doing this?
Right.
And as they're going through this sort of conversation about, what is our lives, there is a heist that is performed at the largest ranch in America in West Texas.
All right. So you're writing a heist book.
Well, it goes wrong. It's more a war book than anything.
Right.
And it's an intense book. And yeah, it's one of the great things about this book, and one of the things that we've loved doing throughout its run, is get to explore characters in intense situations. And this is, we're really putting Joe Bob and Wilson in a war zone, and getting to see how they react, how they act in that situation. And yeah, it's full of surprises, and like every single book that I do with Jacob, it just gets better and better. His art, it just gets better and better. I mean, his stuff was great from the start, but he's just keeps getting better as he goes along. Yep. Keeps, impressing me every time he sends a page or a cover. So I'm just so excited for people to check this out.
Nice. All right. Wes, let's talk about Kaya a little bit. Issue 36, again, another one where, just talking to Geoff and with GEIGER, getting to 25. For you, 36, this has been such a fun read that this book, if you're not reading it, this is a book that has it all. Wes, for you, what has the adventure been like for you with this book, and what keeps you kind of excited to keep the story going?
Yeah, it's like the first. Everybody, can you hear me? It's like the first thing I've ever done where I've written a bunch of stuff. For years, I was doing Deadly Class with Rick Remender, and slowly kind of working on the world of Kaya, like on my off time, like in the background, just building up that whole kind of map. Like it's a fantasy book, and it's a little bit like, Lord of the Rings or whatever else. There's different kingdoms, different people, different, a little bit of like Lord of the Rings, but like Commandy too, like that's in the far future. So there's like mutants and strange different creatures, and filling that world out was a lot of fun. But then it was also like a little bit daunting for me, because I've written a bunch of stuff, some of it published, some of it never made it to being published. But it's like, but I have been writing over the years, but this was like, okay, it can't be. I wanted it to be like an epic fantasy adventure, and you can't do an epic fantasy adventure in like 4 issues. So I was like, this is going to be a longer thing. So that was a little bit daunting, because I'd never written anything that was that long. So I was a little bit like, how am I gonna? I really worked it all out ahead of schedule, so I wouldn't be on issue number 36 and be like, where the hell am I going with this? Taking advice from other writers that I've talked to or listened to in podcasts. It's kind of like there's a lot of room to move around, but it's also like there literally is a map, and it's like and this is the destination, and they can go this way, that way. Things get messed up. Currently they're on separate paths. There's Kaya, who's the main character. She's kind of like a pint-sized little Conan, and it's her task to take care of her little brother, who has this destiny that they're trying to fulfill together. Currently, they've gotten in a epic battle in the previous arcs. They're headed in their separate ways, and so that's kind of the story right now. I just wanted to make sure that I kind of knew where I was going. To make, I can do a 5-issue series on the fly by the seat of my pants, but for something that by the end of it's going to be like 50 issues. Like that's hopefully that's the plan, is 50 issues. So I really needed to kind of know where I was going with it. But it's also fun. There's characters that come up and you're like, oh, this character kind of popped off more than, it's all stuff probably you've heard from other people that have written their comics, but you're always surprised by the characters you make and how much they might appeal to either you or the reader or whatever. So it's like, this character might go off for a while, but I'm like, I got to find a way to kind of bring this person back into the story, So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Also, just talking about like too many spiders and stuff like that. It's like definitely like that feeling is even worse when you write it for yourself, and then you're like, why did I do this to myself? But it's like it is what it is. The story needs what the story needs, and if you don't, but at the same time, it is a fantasy world. Like I'm writing and drawing another series that's for another publisher that's like set in the 1930s, and it's kind of like I had to go back to Deadly Class stuff where it's buildings and proper perspective and all these things, and I'm like, it's so much easier to draw like crumbling buildings and just desert lands and like big mountains and stuff like that, just natural environments. Yeah. So that's another thing that kind of keeps me going, is that it's like it's creating a world that I knew that I would enjoy drawing for a long time, So yeah.
One of the other things that showing the covers for 37 for September, one of the other things that I love that you do is you put the information right on the cover, for like just right on those covers, and for someone who maybe has not checked it out, they can kind of get the synopsis kind of right there. What can you tell me a little bit of just like that decision and how you feel that that's maybe informed either how like you do covers or the story a little bit?
Yeah, I think, the initial idea for that was those like 1970s Conan paperbacks where there's kind of like this little synopsis at the bottom. And like a mix of that and looking at old, like say like old like Marvel comics where there's Stan Lee's got the big blurbs of like, in this issue, the return of the Vulture or whatever, like something to do, something to read, when you look at it. But I didn't want to do that exactly. I felt like, that's applicable for certain things, but not for, like I just didn't feel like that the big like exclamation point splashy stuff wasn't suitable for this book. But yeah, I think it was just like, you got to have a big bold image. You go into the comic shop and you see 1,000 comics, and it's like you're not gonna see that image. It's like going to this convention. It's like you go and it's like the same type of thing. It's like you really have to kind of create the negative space and create all these kind of use all your visual tricks to actually draw somebody's eye to the stuff. But then if they get closer, it's kind of, I just thought it would be nice to have some kind of a hint of like what's inside the book. And it's one of those things that they used to do in comics, but they don't do anymore. So I was trying to like reintroduce that nice idea. Yeah.
I dig it. Tyler, you had a big announcement a week or so ago with Final Boss. You always pitched Final Boss as a lot of the inspiration for that book was kind of like one of those side scroller beat 'em up, kind of games, and the leveling up and all that. And then you got wet in the head and just said, well, let's do the video game. Let's just make the video game.
Pretty much, man. Yeah, that was Final Boss is basically a game playing out in a comic book.
Yep.
And I always liked that that concept of what's happening in between the levels, and what are these characters about. I always liked in some of those classic games like Double Dragon or Streets of Rage, they would have those cutscenes of the characters. It's like the president's daughter has gone missing or whatever, and I always wanted to know more, like what's going on with these characters. What are they like? Why are they just going around beating everyone up? And I just thought it'd be kind of fun to tell that type of story in a comic book form.
Yeah.
And then it obviously worked out well to translate back to the to the video game format. So so this developer kind of took notice and inquired about it, and the concept of the game is really cool. It's basically a classic, kind of 16-bit style 4-player co-op beat 'em up game. But then when you get to a boss, it turns into a Street Fighter type of game.
Pretty
so
cool. We've got the trailer.
Oh, sweet. Heck yeah.
So let me see if it should play. And
no,
it will. It better. Oh, it's not going to play. I got it. I'll fix it.
Cool.
But yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah,
We'll
no,
come back.
and I thought that was really unique when they, it was on our very first call, and some of the guys on this that work for this developer, they're veteran guys, like they worked on Halo and like Perfect Dark and other and like Legacy of Kain and stuff like that. So they already had a lot of really good ideas, and I mean, we even talked about, I don't know if you've read Final Boss, there's in almost every issue there's a backstory with his grandfather. And we even talked about doing like a Pitfall style of game, like with,
nice.
with like skeletons and statues and different things like that, classic kind of full on side scroll thing. And but then it got a little complicated, But now it's almost like 2 games in one with the levels and then the actual boss fights.
Yeah,
and then
awesome.
you'll have you can kind of tap in and out with another character and stuff like that. So if you're playing with friends, they can jump in the fight too. So.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, it's a ways out. Obviously, we just announced it, I think, like a couple weeks ago. And we just wanted to make sure that people were aware of it. And, But yeah, I mean, the series Final Boss issue 8 just came out.
Yeah, I was saying, I've shown the cover to issue 9 and 8 just came out. So where are we at in the story and how powered up is?
Yeah. So that's been the fun thing for me is creating new abilities and new powers, and like you said, leveling up, and it's all obviously video game inspired. In Final Boss, there's like a level up. He's got stats. He's got all of his statistics, and that's stuff that I just love growing up. Final Boss is just everything I love from my childhood, honestly. 90s action movies, 90s comics, just all out action stuff. You know what I mean? But so I'm having a lot of fun creating the different bosses and the powers that he's getting. So issue 5, the end of the first story arc, he really powered up. He got like the actual flame abilities, and he gets these from fallen opponents. But yeah, issue 8 is kind of getting into a new conflict, and it's a boss fight, but there's a deeper story happening in between each fight, right? So there's some major stuff that's going to happen with his best friend, and it's gonna turn Tommy into a completely different person. And going forward,
the way that you do the powering up stuff at the end of each issue feels almost like the reverse of like what Todd did with like the counter in Spawn, where like the countdown, you're building up, and it's that's always been a like. How do you when working on? Because I know like you and I have talked about this, and you get really excited about this and kind of in depth. How do you talk to us a little bit about the power scaling aspect of it, right? Because you need to make sure that you can give Tommy enough powers as the story goes on, but not immediately make him go Super Saiyan.
100%. Yeah, and that's something that I go back and forth on when each time I'm doing that, right? And then I got to go make sure that I'm matching the stats on the last issue or whatever to
right.
But yeah, you can't be like Super Saiyan already. You know what I mean? Like he's got to slowly level up. But the first major storyline, I have an end for that, and I think it's gonna be somewhere around issue 16. I think. I'm not quite there yet. I've got it plotted out, but I haven't actually scripted it that far. And that's where you'll kind of see like this first major, like the tree of power, like the first 10 bosses or whatever. But I've got a lot of stuff planned that I want to do after this storyline as well. But yeah, like I said, each boss that he fights, he ends up getting a new ability. Or with this Night Owl in issue 6 and 7, he actually got a weapon instead, which is the sword, that you see him use sometimes. But and I thought that'd be fun too to translate for the video game as well. Like he's going to earn weapons and different abilities in each level. So
nice. So we've shown the covers for issue 9 up on screen. We've got some for issue 10. These feel like you're having a lot of fun, not only just in the ones that you're doing, but also the folks that you're working with to do variants. What's that been like for you? Because like you do a lot of covers for a bunch of other stuff, but like to have folks come in and do stuff for you, what's that like?
Well, I've realized how hard it is to work with artists, honestly, because everyone's so busy. I mean, I'm getting some people saying like, I'd love to do a cover, but I'm a year out. And I'm like, oh crap, I don't know. You know, I don't how do I? It's hard to. I'm like, I need it in 2 weeks. But you know, luckily I had a decent little stockpile of covers that I had kind of been building up. But now I'm like, you know, guys, I need covers. But it's been a lot of fun because I've been able to reach out to, you know, artists that I'm fans of that I haven't even talked to.
Right.
And like, I'll just walk Artist Alley and just ask people if they're available and, you know, if they've heard of the book and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun working with different artists. Like, I'm on the other side of the table, so it's you know, but like I said, the deadlines has been the major thing. So
they come for us all. Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, if anyone in the audience has got some questions or things like that, feel free to just throw some hands up, and I'll shout you out. Otherwise, I've got some other questions for the group here. All of you guys, you know, have done stories of varying lengths, right? Some, you know, 5-issue stories, some, you know, with ongoings and things like that. When you're working up the initial idea and things like that, has there ever been a point where maybe you thought, okay, it's probably going to end here, but as the story was going, you're like, oh no, it's actually going to end further down the line? How do you manage that? Like, either to keep it tight or allow yourself to expand it?
I mean, I know that I always I go a little crazy. Like, I like to let the characters kind of dictate where things go. Like, I know I have an outline, I know where I'm going to go eventually, but sometimes I'm like, oh wait, this isn't going the way I want it to go. It has to go this way. So that specifically, I mean, there was a time when I was writing the Enfield Game Massacre. It was the end of issue 2. I was like, oh, I want them to get to this point by the end of the issue, and I just realized there was no way that they could get there. I was like, it's just impossible for them to get there. It's not going to happen. And it was just, you know, the story, the characters dictated, you know, how I ended up writing that script. So it ended up changing, you know, and it was, you know, again, it was just dictated by, you know, that's how I try to do. I try to let the characters kind of breathe and live and like live in my mind, and I, you know, try to have them, you know, and that's why, you know, I try to have that be, you know, in my mind, if they feel real to me, they would feel real to the readers. And so that's kind of why I try to do it that way. And yeah, it helps it to feel organic, I think, to, you know, not be so structured, you know, to know where I'm going, but to have the freedom to kind of move and do what I need to do to get there. Love that.
I find it's like, I think you know, it's kind of like the end of each arc is always like, shoot, this is going to need a bit more space. Like, it kind of happens always, but it's again, like an advantage of being the writer artist of it is I don't have to ask the artist to draw. This is going to need like 5 more pages or whatever. I just like, it's just, you know, I have that argument in my head, and then I'm like, yeah, I need to figure out how to stay on deadline and like still get this done. But yeah, that is the best way to do it. It's always this plot versus character kind of argument, you know, where it's like, you need to know where you're going maybe, or have an idea at least, but like, you're not doing anyone a service to like truncate the end of the story or any part of the story, really. So it's like, if it needs to be a little bit longer. So far, I think in Kaya there has been like one arc where I was like, this actually is like an extra issue's worth of story, and the way I have it mapped out for the finale, it's like, for sure, that's, you know, it's like, it's got to be bigger than everything else that's happened. It's like, it's going to need extra pages. It's going to need, so that one's going to have an extra issue on it for sure. Like, I just know, I don't know exactly the details of what's happening, but just the beats, looking at the kind of general map, I'm like, yeah, that's going to need some just some emotional room to breathe, you know, like the characters need to be able to, there's got to be some action stuff, but also people have to have these potentially final not final as in they're gonna die, but like final as in the series is coming to an end, like these big conversations that need to feel like there's a lot of gravity to them, you know. So yeah,
love that. I agree with both of you guys. I it's always truncated is kind of the perfect word, because every time I'm working on a story, when Jay and I work on a story, it's always the ending. You're like, it needs more space. because the danger, I find a lot of superhero comics do this. You skip over all the character stuff. You have them wrap it up in 2 panels, and there's no room for breathing. And the character stuff is what matters. The character stuff always takes longer than you think. It always needs more panels, more pages than you think. And having it breathe is really, really important, because otherwise it doesn't impact you. And so every time it's either extra pages, go to 30 pages, or it's more often than not extra issues. Remember when Brian Hitch and I were working on Redcoat, the first arc, the first 6 issues were the storyline, and this Albert Einstein kind of epilogue we had was going to be like an epilogue in the book, and then it was like, no, that's a whole issue, and it needed a whole issue, and so it is like, it feels like the endings always need just a little more.
I have to imagine for you, Geoff, someone who's done a lot of work wire stuff in the past and needing to stick to whatever, that the ability to be able to, you said, like, make the Albert Einstein epilogue a full issue has got to be freeing, but also does that give you a sense of, I don't know, relief is maybe not the right word, but like with you getting to make that decision, does that scare you at all a little bit in that oh
no,
yeah, there. Okay.
I mean, at DC, when I would do these big events, and I'm always like, the last issue, like I remember Sinestro Corps, I was like, the last issue has to be like 64 pages. And they were like, it's too long, you'll never get it done. I said, it's got to be 64 pages. And I had enough like cred that they're like, oh, and they're like, well, the epilogue's going to issue the comic book, this series I was not writing, the epilogue to the whole series is going to ship a week before it. I said, that's your call, but and they shipped it a week before, and people were like, what? But at the end of the day, nobody cared, because the end of Sinestro Corps was good, and Ivan Reis had the space to draw and the time to draw it right. Because I had worked on things where they forced us to get it done early, forced us to cut pages, and it hurt the story. So I refused to do it anymore. And obviously here we don't have to ask anyone. We just do it. It might take a delay because like Brian will say, hey, this issue should be 28 pages, and it takes longer than 20 pages, which our books are usually 22 or more. That's why DC and Marvel shoved them to 20 pages so they could save money and time. But the stories need to be what the stories are. I have a lot of stories I could tell about things I made longer and they were mad. But it's because like I did a couple that they forced me to do it a certain way, and they just weren't as good as they could have been.
Yeah.
I oftentimes will send Marvel my 25-page script and go, if you want to make edits, you can suggest edits. Otherwise, I want to do it at 25.
Love it. The question over there.
How do you approach like planning and writing such epic stories like GEIGER, Black Knight? The scenes put out in the way all the way back to Secret Origin. How do you plan on something?
It's easy if you know why you're telling the story. Like everyone's like Jay and I know why we're telling Rook. We know why we're telling Rook. Like when we started off to do these books, the hard thing with like work for hire stuff, and I love it. I loved writing Aquaman and everything, but every time you got a character, it's like, why? Like a lot of times I think people are just like, well, we should publish a Flash book. And I'm like, that's just not a good enough reason to publish a story to me. And so I always ask myself, why am I gonna, when they said, do you want to take over Green Lantern? I was like, well, why would I? What am I going to explore? And this was kind of post 9/11-ish, 2004 is a long time ago now. But I wanted to explore fear, and then that led to emotion and like processing emotion and being self-aware of our anger and our love and our hope and our envy, everything. And so when I started to think about that, it built itself saying, well, what if I introduce this? And then ultimately we are anger, we are love, we are everything. And ultimately what's the opposite of that? Well, death, nothing. So it just made sense. Like it just kind of built itself when you know why you're telling a story. I think, but these characters, like if you're going to write a book about Moon Knight, why are you doing it other than Marvel wants to publish a Moon Knight book because there's a TV show? Like you got to have a reason for the story. And if you know the reason for the story, then the story just in my head builds, like Jay and I, when we came up with Rook and why we want to tell it Rook, like the ending just kind of happened. Like we're like, well, this is the whole story, how long it is, 100 issues, whatever it is. We're going to find out along the way, but we already know the last scene in Rook. If it's 20 years from now, we know that last scene. And I know the last issue of Redcoat. I know the last issue of Geiger and Hyde Street, like, because I know why I'm telling these stories. So if you know the why, when you sit down to write something, if you're writing a Batman story for fun, why? Other than you love Batman, because that's not a good reason for a story.
Love that. Got time for one last question, and then we gotta wrap it right in the Redcoat. Yep.
This is for us, been a huge fan of science, especially for us fans in science.
Thanks.
But one of the great that you did that interesting as most, it's what this film we do right now. Others on that, and do writing, especially like essentially for that really got me calling it that flow. So like, especially when you're writing, you're so good at writing that many things that maybe more story you just see this characters. But you also want to hear the writing for the several characters how the you write and think about those who might not have about this characters. Or you try to get you may not get this character and also see them moving new things in the series and all that. They talk to you all against inspiration.
Well, I know Damon and all those guys really well. They're great. I'm excited about the show. I hope it's great. On the characters, I always growing up, I liked comics. It was not cool to like comics when there was no convention like this. You know, you could not dress up like Cyclops and not get heckled. But now it's celebrated, which is great. But I love these characters. If I loved Aquaman, and I remember when Ivan and I wanted to do Aquaman, and DC said, go do Batman. And we're like, we want to do Aquaman. Like, don't go do Batman. And they would ask, why do you want to do Aquaman? And then that would be like what the story's about. Well, because I see him as a human being of two cultures who doesn't feel like they belong in either. And that's an interesting story to explore. And he learns that he's actually the bridge. He's better than nothing. He's the bridge between cultures. And that was the story of Aquaman. And so once I had the story of why, I thought it would be a story that other people would resonate with. And so I would always just think again, why do I want to tell the story? And if I want someone to like Captain Cold, well, like, I think he's cool, but no one else liked him. Well, I'm going to write about him. And he's like this blue collar guy who lost his sister, who, you know, is just trying to live hand to mouth. And he had to get this weird cold gun because some guy with super speed showed up in the city, pulls jobs in. Like, that's the only reason. He's just trying to survive and have a beer at the end of the day. And to me, a lot of people can relate to just trying to survive to have a beer at the end of the day. And he doesn't want to rule the world or kill people. He doesn't care about that. He's just trying to live his life. So just finding that relatable part of, and I just would see the characters very quickly. Like, if someone gave me, I don't care who it is, Metamorpho or any, just give me I don't care. And I would say, give me the worst characters. Like, I don't want Batman because there's a million great Batman stories. He does not need my help. The Joker, even though it's fun to work on Batman 3 Jokers, like, I didn't ever write Batman Monthly because it doesn't need my help. He's got a million great Batman books. I like the characters that they're like, no one wants to do Aquaman. I'll take it. No one, like when I did Teen Titans, nobody wanted to do Teen Titans. I'm like, give me Teen Titans, give me JSA, give me Hawkman, give me Booster Gold, give me Green Lantern, give me the stuff that nobody wants to do, because that's the most exciting stuff. Because I think you can explore being a human being a lot easier in that than going, well, this character's so defined. You got to kind of stay in the single lane of you're just servicing what's already existing, instead of exploring something as a writer or the human being you want to explore.
Well, and then I'd also add like all of that based leading to what you guys have done with your Ghost Machine characters, which were completely new characters and have gotten people to kind of fall in love with them immediately, is just total proof of the pudding.
Yeah. I mean, Geiger is just about being a parent, and like how your capacity, when you have kids, your capacity to love grows, and your capacity, I think, to incite violence also grows. Right? You get very protective, and you're willing to do things that you would never, ever think you would do when you're a parent. But you also love something more than you've ever loved anything in the world when you're a parent. And so Geiger just explores the kind of the paradox of that. And every issue is somebody who deserves to get punished gets punished, and someone who deserves to feel cared about gets cared about. That's what I kind of look at with Geiger, is like those polar opposites, and they exist in one human being.
And the major theme, like with Ghost Machine, is character first. Like, it's all about the character, and you can have all the flash and bang that you want around it. But if the characters aren't great characters that people can fall in love with, then you got nothing.
Yeah, love it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for the panel. You'll be able to find all these guys at some point over the weekend at the Image Comics booth, 1915. Come by, say hello, get
Thank
some
you,
books
everybody.
signed. Catch y'all later.